Welcome to the FLJDC Insider. That's Fair Lawn Jewish Day Camp. This is the place where we share tried and proven methods and ideas on helping children learn new skills, creating meaningful and powerful relationships with them. The things that we do at camp, the things that we train our staff to do, the things that have worked and continue to work. The reason children love to come to camp every single day of every single summer. And that is because at camp, they feel good. They feel welcomed. They don't feel judged. They never feel negative. They always feel positive. And it is because we are able to teach our staff something very, very important. And that is that it's critical that we show and prove to our children that we care about them, and that our connection with them means something to us, and it's important to us. Children grow and prosper under these conditions, and it is something that children really, really look for, actually need in their life, and blossom under these conditions. And that's one of our little secrets, that we implement at camp, and we train and empower our staff to learn how to do in a very, very short time. And it's, of course, extremely effective and very powerful for the children as well. What we'd like to do today is, in this Hanukkah edition of the FLJDC Insider, is take some of the principles of Hanukkah, tie them into the aspect of raising and educating children, and take this concept, this idea, this fundamental that we do with our staff at camp, is teach them how, in a couple of hours, or at most a couple of days, establish and prove that to the children that we do care about them, that we are there for them, and which really turns us into very, very effective staff and has the potential to bring our parenting, of course, to a whole new, powerful and successful, effective level. So let's jump right into it. Hanukkah, the Hebrew word Hanukkah, that is from the Hebrew root chinuch, which means to educate. I would like to base this episode on defining the definition of education by explaining and saying that academics is very different from an education. There are the academics that our children need to learn, and usually mostly learn at school, with teachers, with coaches, and so on. And then there is an education. And very commonly, we mistake those two. We interchange those two as being the same thing. And we say, oh, I got an education, or I have an education. And while the meaning of that may be, I graduated grade school, and I went to high school, and I went to college, which may be obvious, but I think it's very important to have a fundamental understanding, especially that we are all educators as parents, to understand that there truly is a very big difference between an education and between academics, learning academics. So when our children go to school or have private teachers or coaches or tutors, and our children learn academics, math, science, history, and other skills, academic skills, that is, those are academics. That's not yet an education. An education means a child who knows how to behave nicely, who knows how to think of others, who knows how to give to others, feel what someone else might need, is socially aware, and has all of these social and what we like to call at camp, actually, life skills. And those are things that children don't learn at school, because those are things that usually are taught only at home. And the primary teachers of an education, the primary givers of an education, are not teachers, actually. They are parents. So there's a common misconception. My child goes to a good school, they'll be set. And it is a very big misconception. A good school does not guarantee anything. I think by now we know that already. If not, then we're pretty much finding that out, that even a great school at a very, very high price, and even if our children do very, very well at school, it does not even come close to guaranteeing any kind of success, not even financial success, not even getting a good job. Pretty much not much is guaranteed by that. The only thing that guarantees success in life is a good education. That is, parents that are deeply committed and involved, actively, effectively involved in their children's lives on a day-to-day basis, and do it effectively. And that's one of the things we talk to our staff about, and it's what I want to share with you is you can have a great counselor, you can have a great parent, which obviously is devoted to their children and wants the best for their children. But somewhere, somehow, there's this miscommunication happening. The child doesn't feel that the parent or the counselor is there for them at every single moment. Although they know it and they understand it beyond the shadow of a doubt, certainly in the case of a good relationship at home with parents and children. But on the child's terms, that is, from the child's perspective, they're looking for something more, something which perhaps they can't articulate, something which is perhaps even subconscious, but it's very important and critical. Hanukkah, though, has the magical answer, and that is what I would like to share with you today. So something we all do on Hanukkah is we give our children stuff. I would like to talk about what kind of stuff we give our kids. Most commonly in Hanukkah, we give our children gifts. Whatever that gift might be, doesn't matter, but there's gift giving, whether it's once every single night for 8 nights, it's a party, and there's opening gifts, and it's wonderful, and it's happy, and it's joyful, and that, of course, is great. Or if you give gifts once in the course of the 8 days, which is also not a bad option, in my opinion, at least. There is an actual Jewish tradition on Hanukkah, which is not to give gifts. It is to give money. And we're all familiar with the term. It's a Hebrew term, a Yiddish term that is Chanukah Gelt, which of course means money. And we give our children money. And again, some of us give every single night a little bit. Some of us will give once on Hanukkah for all of the 8 days. And regardless of what the amount is, obviously depending on what we can afford and what we think is appropriate, on the appropriate age level of the children, of course. But what I want to discuss is really the fundamental and critical difference between giving gifts and giving money. I'd like to discuss it, and I would like to, mostly my goal here is in this episode to share a perspective with you. I don't want to dictate or tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing, or what you are doing or have been doing with your children is right or wrong. Not at all. I want to simply give a perspective and allow you to a second thought and a second opinion, if you will, on how things are done at home, in your family, and give you the opportunity to explore it and to think about it, spend some time on it. A Jewish perspective on life in general is just because everyone is doing something doesn't mean that we have to do it. In fact, most of the time, if everyone is doing something, the right thing to do is turn around and run in the other direction. And as a people, for many thousands of years, it's exactly what we've been doing, and it served us well in terms of survival, I would say. Let's examine the differences between gift giving and Chanukah Gelt, giving money. What happens when we give a child a gift? This could be true in general, although we're not ruling out gift giving. We're not doing that at all. What we're doing is we're examining the gift giving idea on Hanukkah specifically. When a child gets a gift, what happens? What's this transaction taking place? Is it a parent or another relative perhaps giving a child something either that they've asked for, or something that we know they would want or appreciate, something that perhaps they need or they would have fun with? What's the value of that gift? When we give a gift, which is a specific item, that gift has very little value because the value is limited specifically to the thing that we gave our child, nothing else. So if I give my child a toy, for example, the value is that toy, and it's limited to specifically what that toy can do. We can't do anything else with it. It's just that thing. So in terms of giving gifts, we're limiting our gift giving to specifically to the thing that we gave. Now, sometimes that may be the intention, and that's okay. But we're just trying to examine the differences between gift giving and money. When we give money, when we give Chanukah Gelt, the value is much more than giving a gift, even if the amount of money is much less than what the gift is worth. Nevertheless, giving money has a lot more value, because when you give a child money, the child can buy anything they want with that money, even if what they want costs too much and the money isn't enough to buy that thing, because they can save that money. And when they have enough of it from various different situations or people, then they can buy themselves that thing, which is another value that the child receives when we give money, which is learning delayed gratification, learning how to save money, learning how to take care of money, learning how to keep money safe. These are valuable and important skills for a child to learn, not just in the here and now, but this is something that every person should know how to do. This is something that every young adult should have experience with. This is, for example, a common challenge, actually, of young people, of young adults, certainly teenagers, but even young adults in their early 20s. They're making money. They're starting to make, hopefully, decent, significant money, at least for their age, for the first time, and they have no idea what to do with it. They don't know how to spend it. They don't understand how to keep it safe. They certainly have no idea how to invest it. And with zero experience in the past 10 or 15 years of their life, how do we expect them to know what to do with the money? And many times, young people squander their money. They waste their money. They spend it on silly things, or they lose it. They forget to deposit their paychecks. I mean, today we have something called direct deposit, thank God. But many young people, and I have experience with this, many young people get a paycheck, lose it, never deposit it. They forget about it, or they remember about it months later. Well, why do we want our children to have that? We would want our kids to have experience with money. And that's something that's helpful to them, not just when they're 5 or 10 or 15 years old, but learning that skill is helpful to them literally till they're 120. And what's powerful about this, think about it, when as a parent, we empower our children and we teach them just by the act of giving them a gift of money and engaging them in conversation about it, if they talk about it and when they talk about it, on what to do with the money and how to keep it safe and how to invest it or how to save up with it or how to share it perhaps with somebody, how to give charity with it. There's many, many different things that could be done with money. And that's why money is so powerful, and there's so much value in giving a gift of money, Chanukah Gelt, rather than just a gift. But the most powerful part of this transaction is that when the child is 30, 40, 50 years old, that child will remember and will know that their money skills, even if they're very basic, fundamental skills, but those skills are based on the experiences they had as a child with you, the parent. That's so, so powerful to so many people. Think about the struggles that so many young people face today. And most of those struggles are based simply on that there wasn't enough of a fundamental life experience, training for life experience at home from the parents. And that now when the child is older and has, thank God, moved out and is now independent, they're struggling because they don't know how to be independent. And I'm not talking about knowing how to screw in a light bulb by themselves, which, by the way, a lot of people also struggle with and panic when the light bulb goes out. Or if the toilet clogs, and they have no idea what to do, and it's a panic. Simple, basic self-preservation and taking care of yourself skills. But we're talking about something as fundamental as knowing what to do with your money. So let's talk a little bit more about what are the results of giving gifts on children. So the value of the gift is very limited. Giving a gift also creates, I believe, entitlement rather than a feeling of giving. The child, when they get gifts, certainly if they get a lot of gifts, they become entitled. They start getting the message which says, I deserve this. This is what I deserve. And if I don't get this, I start to get upset. I didn't earn it. I may not even deserve it, but I get a gift anyway. There are always unspoken words in every transaction and in every communication, and especially with children, and especially between parents and children. The things we do with our kids, the places we take them, the things we say to them, the way we behave with them, the gifts that we give them, all have unspoken words and messages that we are sending to our children. And every time we do it, we reinforce that message over and over and over again. And as parents, what we have to do is make sure that the message that we're sending is a constructive one, is a positive one, and is one that will help them in their future when they grow up. So if I'm showering my children with gifts, the message that I'm sending is, you deserve stuff, even though you don't deserve it, which means you didn't really do anything to earn it. Of course, our children will deserve it, let's say, because they're good kids and they're doing well in school and they behave well and all that good stuff. But that still hasn't earned the constant barrage of gifts. So the child starts to feel entitled. The child starts to get this message, oh, I can get stuff even if I don't deserve it, even if I didn't work for it. That builds on and feeds into the natural selfishness that every human being has. We're always naturally selfish and self-centered, not necessarily even in a bad way, but just a very basic self-preservation concept, which is built into us, which is pretty much survival, how we survive and how we live. So of course, it's not a bad thing, but if it's not controlled, and if a child from a young age isn't taught how to be aware of this, what we're calling selfishness, but not in a bad way, but this self-preservation concept, self-preservation that we have, and the child isn't taught how to understand it, deal with it, control it, and understand when it's important and when it's damaging, then the child can lose their way very, very quickly. So the last thing you want to do is tell a child, hey, you deserve stuff, and feed into that natural selfishness that people have. Another thing that gift giving does on children is it establishes a false sense of happiness. And us adults hopefully know this by now. Stuff is not what makes us happy. No stuff in the world, even the really good stuff, even the really expensive stuff, doesn't buy happiness. It doesn't. In fact, nothing buys happiness. Happiness cannot be bought, and happiness cannot be given through a gift. But when we give our child a gift, now you're happy. A child says, oh, I want to be happy. Oh, I'm so happy I got a gift. It is a false narrative of happiness. We do it to ourselves too. Sometimes we feel bad and we go and we buy ourselves something, and it's a comfort experience. It makes us feel better. But does it really make us feel better? Does it solve the problem? Does it address at all the issue that we might be dealing with and the real cause of our pain or the real cause of our hurt at the moment? I'm not saying that comforting ourselves with a gift or with a treat is the wrong thing to do. It isn't. But we should never confuse it with a source of happiness. But children aren't, their intellect isn't yet developed enough to make that distinction. And even young adults, even teenagers, certainly if as children they haven't been raised this way and they're constantly being given gifts, then their mind simply doesn't work that way. It doesn't mean that they're not intelligent enough. It's just that their mind is trained to think in a different way. And it's important for us as parents to consider, how are we directing our children's mind to work, and what perspective are they going to have in general and on life. So establishing a true sense of happiness, if you're feeling sad or you're in a bad mood or something bad has happened and therefore you're sad about something, or you're depressed, or you're just not in the mood because it's snowing and gray and freezing and outside. Regardless of what the source is, most of the time, a person should try to go for something that brings true happiness, real lasting happiness, something that really, really makes a person and gives us a reason to live, not fake sources of happiness like stuff or food or things like that, which again, as I want to reiterate, are not necessarily wrong or bad, but it's just important for us to understand. If I'm in a bad mood and I finish a quart of ice cream, while that may not be good for my weight, it may be good for my mood at the moment. But what I should definitely be aware of is ice cream, as delicious as it is and as much as we love it, is not the source of happiness. Yet, if a child, let's just take this radical example for a moment, if a child is constantly given ice cream every time they want something, every time they're in a good mood, that we need to put them into a good mood and make them happy or make them quiet or do something to help them out, then the child is trained that ice cream is the source of happiness. Ice cream will end all suffering and will end all misery and will always be the solution to any of your problems, which obviously is a silly thing. And obviously not suggesting that anyone does this, but it's an extreme example. So we're just trying to point out how gift giving does give a false sense of happiness. And we need to be careful in what message we're sending to our children when we're constantly giving them gifts that they not necessarily deserve, giving gifts just because, and the underlying message being, we hope this makes you happy. I hope this makes you happy. I hope this makes you happy. Never mind the whole reality, unfortunately, which does exist, in which children start to expect gifts, to expect very specific, certain gifts, or to expect gifts that are worth a certain amount. And if I get something that doesn't meet my financial threshold, then it's just not good enough. And then my parent isn't a good enough parent, or my relative doesn't really care about me because they didn't get me the gift that's worth enough. What kind of message is that sending to a child? So gift giving could also be very, very dangerous for children. And we need to be very, very aware of what the message that we're sending to our children is. Let's think another thing. What is the long-term benefit of giving a gift? Most gifts, I'm sure there will be some exceptions that you can think of, but I would say even 99% of any gift that you can give to a child has extremely limited long-term benefits, if no long-term benefits at all. Nothing. The only benefit is the here and the now, the not so real sense of happiness that the child gets. I got something, I'm happy now. And that the thing that I got is going to be useful now, perhaps for a couple of hours, days, months, maybe years, and that's it. Maybe years. And we all know how quickly electronics, which is the most popular form of gift giving these days, electronics become old very, very quickly. And now the gift has no value at all. Now, what you gave me last year, I don't care about it anymore. And yes, you spent money on it. It may have been hard work, hard-earned money, and you did it out of really the depths of your soul and of your heart because you really cared about the child, and you went out and bought something you couldn't even afford because you wanted your kid to be happy. And now, just a few months later, or even if it's a year or two later, that gift no longer has any value? What kind of message does that send to the child? And what is it saying about us, who are the ones who should be raising and educating this child to be appreciative and we should be really doing things as parents that have value to it, long-term value, to send that message to the child that I don't just want you to be happy now. I want you to be happy forever. And therefore, I'm going to empower you and teach you how to live a full and complete life. Giving you stuff isn't going to do that. And of course, I give you the stuff that you need and the basics that you need to survive. But beyond that, and obviously things that will make you happy, and even if it's in the short term. But again, gift giving has to be very, very thought through very, very well to make sure that we are not sending the wrong message. Unfortunately, all too often, gift giving does send the wrong message, and that's why we're hopefully having this productive conversation. A few small things. Gift giving confuses children with the difference between needs and wants, which is another very, very big topic. It's in our vocabulary by now already, and with adults, it's certainly as unbeneficial as with children. We confuse the things that we need with the things that we want, and everything that we want becomes something that we need. And the things that we really need, things that we actually need, the things that are difficult to get, but we need them. Those things they're not even needs anymore. They're not even wants. They're just forgotten about at some point. And those are usually the things that take hard work to get. So what we don't want to do is confuse our children's understanding of the difference between needs and wants. When we give our kids a bunch of stuff that perhaps they want, the children certainly start to think about these things as needs, because it does become almost like an idea which we mentioned before, where the child begins to expect certain things. I deserve this stuff, and therefore I need it. And it just blurs the really, really important life skill that we need in life to succeed, is the difference between what I need and what I want. And the intellectual maturity that is so critical for any young adult and any individual, any person in general, is to be able to distinguish between what I actually need right now and the stuff that I want, and be able, have the intellectual maturity and strength and resilience to be able to tell myself, this is something that I don't need. I want it. I may deserve it. I may just want it and not deserve it, but I can't have it now for whatever reason. And usually that reason might be I can't afford it. And I'm not going to just put it on my credit card and get it anyways and then pay for it for the next 10 years with interest, God knows how much, and start digging myself into unnecessary debt. And 15 years later, try to figure out what happens to my financial life, which is another important life skill that parents should be educating their children with, is financial literacy and financial skills, which is another benefit of Chanukah Gelt, which we'll get to in a few moments. Let's talk a little bit about the parents. We've been talking about children. What happens when parents give gifts to their children? For us parents, yes, we are adults and we have intellectual maturity, hopefully. Certainly, it's something we're all working on every single day, absolutely, because it's something we can always get more and more of. But there's a parental responsibility that we have, hopefully, that's always kind of hanging over us, which is I have a responsibility. I have a duty to my family, to my children, and there are things that I must get done. There is time that I have to spend with my children. There are things that I have to do with them. There are things that are important, and I have to do those things, because otherwise I'm losing out on the relationship with my child. My child is growing up without me, and the moments that I miss with my children are moments I will never, ever get back. No amount of money and no amount of power will ever be able to get time back or missed opportunities back with my children. And an intellectually mature adult knows that, understands it, and lives based on that principle. When I give gifts to my children, constant gift giving, I'm talking about constant, incessant, perhaps a little bit too much. But on Hanukkah, when we give a gift every single day, it's a lot, and then on the day after Hanukkah, all of a sudden there's nothing. It creates this void. Hey, what's going on? How come I didn't get a gift? Oh, it's not Hanukkah anymore. Oh, okay. Oh, I don't deserve gifts anymore because it's not Hanukkah? What happened? But what it does to us parents is it creates a false sense of I've done my duty. I made my child happy. It's not real. We talked about that already. Giving gifts to children is not how we make them happy. But when we do give our gifts to children, when we do give our children gifts constantly, we give that false sense of happiness to the children and to ourselves. I feel good now as a parent. I gave my child a gift, an expensive gift, a gift that was thought out, a gift that I kind of, over the past few months, tried to figure out what does my kid actually want, and in conversation figured out how to trick them into actually telling me what they want. And then I went ahead on Amazon and searched for it, and I couldn't find it, so I went to Friends and Facebook Marketplace and God knows what, and I spent 45 hours in the past 2 months looking for something that will make my child happy. And now finally I gave it to them, and they feel so good, and I feel so good. Now I can get back to my whatever it is that I like to do, my glass of wine. And it's quiet because my child is busy. And I have done my duty. I'm a great parent. I hope you can feel the sarcasm. It's a false sense of happiness. It's a false sense of I've done my responsibility. It's not real. Parents should be doing much more meaningful stuff with their children than spending time online looking for the things they think or hope their children will be happy with. When in fact, the thing that your children will be happy with is you. You. You don't need anything else. No gifts, no toys, no electronics, just you. That is the reality. Another thing, we'll get back to this, another thing that happens with the parents when we give gifts is it also covers up on the natural, I think, the natural ability of a parent to know what a child actually needs. And when it's covered up with all this surface, skin-deep stuff, which is gifts and toys and things that everyone has or everyone's getting, or the newest craze out there, and we're all into this thing and helping our children get that thing so they can finally be happy, it covers up on the real ability of a parent to know what their child is actually lacking and needs right now. And that will actually be beneficial to them now and in the future. And another issue with gift giving is that it doesn't have the opportunity of real connection, of creating the relationship, of fueling a relationship and further bringing the parent-child relationship closer and closer and closer together. Gift giving is nice, sometimes a little bit, but constant gift giving or frequent gift giving does not create that connection. Because it's just, I got you what you wanted, even if it's very appreciative and hugs and kisses and I love you and thank you so much and you're so great and it's all fine and dandy and all of that, which I'm sure that is what happens when our children get gifts. But it doesn't create a real connection. What is a real connection? A real connection is when the parent is able to relate to the child on the child's level, on a level of what the child actually needs and wants, and what concerns the child actually concerns them now, and what will be beneficial to them in the future. But they don't know about it yet, but they will find out about it as they grow up. To understand this a little bit better, we're going to jump into the actual Chanukah Gelt. What happens when we give our children Chanukah Gelt? So first of all, Chanukah Gelt has value. Not just because it's Gelt and it has value, but because it's money and it has limitless potential. It has value far beyond the actual gift. If you contrast the money and giving a gift, the gift, as we said, is limited specifically to the nature of the gift, whereas giving money is pretty much unlimited in terms of what you can do with it, in terms of the buying power, that this money has when you combine it with future income. In other words, that money can be turned into potentially any gift, any toy. So if a child wants to buy something for themselves, give your child the money and let your child buy that thing for themselves. So if a certain toy or thing, for whatever reason, has to be bought, and that's been established, and we can't get by without it, my kid has to have the latest PlayStation, otherwise there's going to be big, big problems. Okay, that is certainly the prerogative of the parent to decide and determine. And if that's been determined, then we're getting a PlayStation, or whatever the current equivalent of the most recent PlayStation is. The child is limited to that very PlayStation, to that very thing that was purchased, that was bought. Whereas if I give my child money, my child can buy that PlayStation for themselves. Now, I may not have given them enough money to do that. Or even if I did give them enough money to do that, the skills, the value of the child then having the money, seeing it in front of them, feeling the money, and getting the sense and the experience of taking money that's now mine, even though I didn't earn it, I didn't work for it, it was given to me as a gift, fine, but now it's my money, and I can learn the experience of taking money that's mine and spending it. Now it's not mine anymore. I have to give it away, and in return, I'm getting something that I want. That is a very, very, I think, very, for some reason, not talked about experience, not talked about enough at all. Something that I think is very, very beneficial for children to learn how to do. It is a critical life skill to know. And the earlier children learn how to do that, the better off they are on a very simple and basic fundamental level, when they grow up. Learn how to get something and exchange it for another thing, something that actually has value. It's a very, very critical skill to have in life. It's a beautiful thing. But beyond that, when I give my child money, I can teach my child, or my child is now required to keep that money unless they're going to spend it right away. In most cases, they'll probably hold on to it because that money will not be enough to spend on whatever they want to buy. But even if they want to spend it on whatever they want to buy, they're going to have to hold on to it until they go to the store or go online and actually buy it. So the child has to learn how to keep the money safe. The child has to learn how to save the money if they're going to keep it for later. The child can then learn how doing more things, which get more money, can combine with other money and become a bigger total, which makes you wealthier, gives you more buying power. You can get bigger things, better things. But that also means you have a bigger responsibility because now you have more money to keep safe. You can invest the money. How important, how critical is it for children to learn that money can be invested? The $5 that I have now is never limited to the $5. Those $5 can become more if properly, obviously, and responsibly invested. I'm not suggesting your 5-year-olds should be investing their $5 at all, but I'm also saying that might not be such a bad idea either. That might not be that actually might be a great way for a parent to spend time with a child and learn different things about investing. Teach the concept that money could become more than what it is. Teach the concept of inflation. If you hold on to your $5 for 5 years, it's still a $5 bill, but it's not worth the same $5 that it was 5 years ago. That is a very powerful concept, financial concept, which children should be learning. And your child will always be able to use this information for the rest of their life. And every time that topic comes up in their life, they will know that it's their parent who taught it to them. It's their parent who spent time with them on this topic. And those beautiful, wonderful moments spent with their parents learning, hands-on learning these things. These are powerful experiences, childhood experiences, which literally last a lifetime, not just as a memory, but as a useful tool and skill that your child is guaranteed to need and appreciate for the rest of their life. That, my friends, is value. We need to be thinking about how we're giving our children value in the short and long term. It's critical for effective and successful parenting to stop thinking just about our kids as, oh, they're just 5, oh, they're just 10, oh, they're just 13, oh, they're just 15. They're never just 13. 13-year-olds become 14, 15, 16-year-olds, and before you know it, they're 35 or 40, and they have a family of their own, and we're grandparents. Thank God, it's a wonderful thing. The time has flown by. Have we provided the roadmap to life? Have we given our children the actual skills, not just paid for an expensive college? Because that, as we said, has given our children wonderful, perhaps great academic skills, which are very, very important. I agree. But at least as important, and I think even more important, is the education they get at home, specifically from their parents. Nobody else in the world, I think, can provide the education that a child needs other than the parents. So when we give money, Chanukah Gelt, it's much more value than the actual thing that we're giving. We're teaching them delayed gratification, such an important skill to know how to do in life. We are literally forcing our children to learn how to think and to think independently, to think about things that will help them beyond the here and the now. The money can turn into whatever I want it to turn into. It doesn't just have to be the thing, the gift that I bought my child, but the child can now turn this money into whatever they want it to do, whatever they want to buy. And again, the child can share it. The child can give it. The child can save it. The child can do a mitzvah with it and give some tzedakah. You know, there is a concept of maaser in Hebrew, maaser, which means tithing in English, giving a tenth of everything that we have. It's not always easy to do that because 10% of what we own can sometimes be a lot. And if we don't own a lot, 10% of what we own is still a lot. Either way, but when a child has, $1 and they have to give 10 cents of that dollar away, they're only left with 90 cents. It's a great skill to learn how to do. It is a mitzvah. It is a mitzvah that perhaps not everyone might be ready to do yet, but it's certainly worth at least a conversation. But there itself, that's a conversation. It's an opportunity. You've given money, and now you created an opportunity for your child to ask you questions, for you to provide valuable answers and conversations to your children. That, my friends, is value, is what I'm talking about. Education, raising children. Now, what if my kids lose the money? Many parents have said that to me. Oh, I give my kids money and they always lose it. I don't want my kid to lose the gift. I'm giving my child a gift. I'm going to give my kid whatever I'm giving them, however much money, and they're going to lose it, or they're going to waste it, or they're going to take it to school and trade a $100 bill for five $5 bills, and they'll think that they're getting more because now they have 5 bills instead of 1. Something silly like that, which is all too common. But friends, we're parents, right? And our job, our main role is to raise and educate our children. When our children make mistakes, so many parents miss out on this golden opportunity, I love to call it. When our children make a mistake, we should value that moment and sit down with them and comfort them, first of all. Obviously, if they're upset, comfort them, empathize with them genuinely, and offer the wisdom, the intellectual maturity which you have as the parent to deal with the stress of whatever mistake they made, console them, and offer the positive criticism, so to speak, the information necessary that your child will not make that mistake again. That's golden opportunity. Many times as parents, we squander the opportunities of our children's mistakes. When a child makes a mistake, that is then the role of the parent, not to jump in and put a Band-Aid on it and save the day. No. If I gave my child money and my child lost it, my role is not to replace it with new money. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. Certainly not. Never do that. But jump in and teach your child now the critical skill of life that they will need in life to deal with making a mistake and learning from that mistake, understanding what happened, what is the mistake, what is the moment of the mistake, where did I not misunderstand what's actually happening, and therefore I made a mistake, and how to make sure I don't repeat that mistake. Now, talk about valuable conversation, talk about meaningful connections and relationships between parents and children, talk about education. Nothing provides an education like that moment right there where a child made a mistake and the parent jumps in with valuable information that helps the child understand why what they did was a mistake, does it lovingly and patiently, why what they did was a mistake, and how to make sure not to repeat that mistake again. That is so powerful, and I cannot overstate the importance and the need for parents to be present for their children at those times. Now, if we're afraid to give our children Chanukah Gelt, money, because we're afraid they're going to lose it, that's the last reason we shouldn't be giving them money. Give them the money. And if you think they're going to lose it, good. Let them lose it. And now cash in, pun intended, on that opportunity and educate your child. And it's going to be the most valuable time that you've spent with your child, or one of the most valuable times. And it is going to be a conversation and a skill that your child will use for the rest of their life. Think about that as value. All right. So I hope I've provided some context and some food for thought, at least. I'm obviously sharing a Jewish perspective. I'm sharing also my own experience as a parent. It's, at least at this point in time, has proven to be, thank God, has proven to be very effective, has proven to be very, very beneficial to our children and to us. And I want to mention another point, which is so many of us are probably, as we're listening to this, thinking, and certainly I've heard this from parents in general, because I have had this conversation with parents one-on-one here and there over the years. And what people say is, well, everyone's giving gifts. All the kids are getting gifts. All the parents are giving gifts. It must be the right thing to do. There can't be anything wrong with giving gifts, with giving a lot of gifts, with giving a gift every single night of Hanukkah. So my first initial gut response to that is, as Jews, we are required to think independently, not what everyone's doing. That's not usually the right thing. The right thing is to think about what's the right thing to do and then act on what we understand is the right thing to do. If everyone's doing something, it doesn't mean it's legit. It doesn't mean that's the right thing. If everyone's doing something, as we said in the beginning, as I said, it's usually the opposite what should be done. Furthermore, and this is in relation to children, and it's a unique skill, I think, but it's really, really powerful as well. When our children come to us with those sorry puppy eyes and they say, all my friends are getting the newest iPhone, right? Or whatever it is. Everyone's doing this. And this is something that, please, I don't want to be different. Please don't cause me this emotional stress, this social emotional stress. How cool would it be if from a young age we were able to offer our children the wisdom of not living in a herd mentality, of living intellectually independently of others, not doing and conforming to society, rather living intellectually independent. Very, very powerful stuff. And that is not to say that what society does is bad. What that does mean is that we shouldn't be running and doing everything society is doing just because society is doing it. But there should be a thought process. We should be researching things. We should be understanding what we're doing. And we should be making sure that what we're doing is actually beneficial, is actually good, is actually the right thing, is actually healthy, and so on and so forth. And whatever the criteria for us is as the right thing to do. But just because everyone's doing something does not mean we should be doing it. In fact, that is a weakness. If I have to give into social pressure every time there is social pressure, and we know social pressure never lets up, certainly not in the age of the iPhone, where there's constant social pressure every minute of the day, literally, and it never lets up. There's no escaping social pressure. So if we don't give our children that critical skill to succeed in life, which is I don't do what everyone does. I do what's good for me and what's healthy for me and my family. Then where are our kids going to learn how to do this? How many young people are suffering from social pressure today and have no idea how to get out of it? How many people literally suffer with their health or worse? I don't want to get into that now, but we know people who do some bad things, horrible things because of social pressure. Because they don't know how to fit in, or they want to fit in, or they can't. They don't have that independence, that unique personality and independence that every person has, but they have no idea how to tap into it. They were never shown how to do it. They never practiced it. They were never encouraged to do it. They were never complimented for it. And Chanukah Gelt is a wonderful way to do that, where we tell our children, yes, everyone might be giving gifts. That's true. But as Jews, we don't do that. We give money, and here's why. And let's have the conversation. And by the way, it doesn't mean you can't get what you want. By the way, you could get what you want. Here's the money to get it. But I don't want to be giving you a gift because everyone's giving you a gift. I want to give you money which has value, which will help you with many, many other things in life, as we've mentioned. And now if you want to spend this money and buy whatever it is that you want to buy, go ahead. I trust you. Go ahead and buy it. If you want me to help you buy it, I'll help you buy it in terms of clicking and using my Amazon account or going to the store, whatever it might be that the child needs help with. But here's the money. Go ahead and buy it. Or you know what? I don't have enough money. It's too expensive, but I can give you half of what this thing is worth. Hold on to the money. And when you have enough, by earning money for wherever you earn money, or waiting until the next time you get a monetary gift from somebody, and then you'll have enough money to buy that thing. But at least we're giving our kids value. They're learning skills. They're learning how to save. They're learning how to delay gratification and all of those other wonderful and important life skills. They're learning things. They're gaining value out of this gift of money, out of the Chanukah Gelt. Another important thing, I think, in this context, in this episode, is to understand, because this is on the same topic, is Hanukkah gift giving does not have Jewish origins. Hanukkah gift giving is a corporate invention. Let's be honest with ourselves. There is no Jewish source for giving gifts on Hanukkah. On Hanukkah, we give gelt. We give our children money. The reason we do that is, as mentioned earlier, Hanukkah is the root word of education, of chinuch, also has the connotations of beginning, of something new. And money, giving children gifts of money, has an enormous amount of value as opposed to gifts. That's why we give money. And also because Hanukkah's education has to do with education, when we give our children money, we're teaching them a very, very important Jewish principle, which is that we must share with others. And money is the beginning of value. When we give our children some money, we tell them, give some tzedakah, some charity from this money. And how much is up to them, and that should be part of the decision-making that we help them or they do independently, but it's the instructions that they get. And this is another life skill that they are learning from a young age is, I have money, I earn money, or I got money as a gift. Now I give some of it away to someone less fortunate than me, or I give it away to a worthwhile cause. But the point is they're learning how to give of themselves and share with others. A very, very critical gift. So understand that corporations conceived the concept of Hanukkah gift giving. It is not a Jewish concept. And there again, are we living our lives based on what CEOs in boardrooms have come up with in marketing strategies and campaigns to sell a bunch of stuff which otherwise would not sell? And I'm not against commerce at all. I'm very capitalistic in nature, in thought process, and the concept of believing in free market and all that stuff. I certainly believe in that and certainly engage in it. And it's certainly one of our freedoms, and certainly one of the reasons we appreciate the United States so much. A whole other topic. But my point is that if we're allowing these big corporations to dictate how we raise our children, and yes, gift giving or giving money and these small little things has very much to do with raising our children, as I've articulated in the past 50 minutes. Wow, it's been a long time. Then we need to understand the corporations, the CEOs, the marketing gurus, they're the ones raising our children, not us. And we need to be making sure as parents that we are raising our children, not marketing campaigns and not marketing firms, but it's us. Like everything in Judaism, Hanukkah is not just a holiday that is limited to the 8 days of Hanukkah, but it is a holiday which lasts the entire year. The Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke about this and made this point very, very clear on a number of occasions. We shouldn't think that when Hanukkah is over, we take the menorah, we put it back in the shelf, and it's done and over with, and next Hanukkah we pull it out again. But the message of Hanukkah, the message of the candles, of the lights, of the flames, the warmth, the miracles, all those things that we talk about during Hanukkah, and we get so inspired by, they don't end in Hanukkah. They last the entire year. If we take that warmth with us, we bottle it inside of us and use it throughout the year, every single day. And my friends, the message of education, the topics we've been talking about, should also not be limited to Hanukkah, but they could, and of course should, be used throughout the entire year and throughout our entire parenting and educational process of raising our children to be good, upstanding Jewish citizens. And taking that message throughout the entire year and not just leaving it in Hanukkah. So today, I'm not sure when you're going to watch this video, but whenever you are, today is still the 7th day of Hanukkah. And of course, tonight is going to be the 8th night, which gives us till the end of Friday. That is still Hanukkah. You can still give your children Chanukah Gelt. Even if you gave your children a whole bunch of gifts already, as we say in Yiddish, soll sein zu gesund, or in Russian, shobila na zdarovye. Let them use it in good health, in English. They should use it in good health, and you gave gifts, that's wonderful, that's great. There's nothing wrong with giving gifts. What I'm simply doing is I want to offer another perspective and show how the Jewish method of gift giving, which is giving gelt instead of gifts, has a lot more value to it. And the lesson from that is that the things we do with our children should be thought about and should have value to it. It shouldn't just be random acts, random behaviors, random things that we do with our kids, which hopefully we hope will help them, but should be thought through, should be thought out, should be planned, should be orchestrated in a way in which will actually be beneficial to them in the short and especially in the long term. So there's still plenty of time to give Chanukah Gelt. Give them some gelt, even if it's a little bit, even if we already gave them a bunch of gifts and we can't afford to give any more gelt. Give them a couple of bucks even, and just say it's the tradition of Jewish people. We give Hanukkah Gelt on Hanukkah. I gave you gifts, enjoy them, but here's another couple of bucks as Hanukkah Gelt because I love you and you're a great child. And even if you see this video after Hanukkah, and you can still give Hanukkah Gelt, even though it's not Hanukkah. If you missed the opportunity on Hanukkah, give them Hanukkah Gelt and tell them, I saw this class and I realized, it's something that might be good. It's nice and traditional, and I want to just give you some gelt. I promise you, your children will not be upset with you. I want to wish you a happy Hanukkah. And let's remember that parenting, like everything else in life, is a journey. It's a process. We learn new things each day, every single day. The FLJDC Insider is an attempt to share parenting ideas and sometimes perhaps very, very different ideas, but that's exactly the point. Ideas that are different, ideas that are not popular out there in the sense that everybody knows about them. These are uniquely Jewish ways of thinking. And these are methods that we do ourselves with our children, and they work, thank God, they work very well. And these are ideas that we implement also in our camp, in which we have many, many hundreds of children every summer, thank God, who are extremely happy and satisfied, not just because they're having a lot of fun, but because they feel valued, they feel good, and they feel like they're actually gaining experiences at camp. And it is precisely because the things that we do at camp are thought through and have the children's best interest at mind, not just to give them a great time, but to actually help them get value in the short and long term from the camp experience, mostly in connections and relationships with friends, with staff, and from the experience in general. And that, my friends, is, as they say, that. So I want to wish you a happy Hanukkah and wish you all the best, all the very, very best. You should be healthy, happy, and I really, really hope to be able to see you in person safely and in good health very, very soon. Take good care.